What is Power BI? Well, it's a business intelligence software. It was created by Microsoft. It's an interactive data visualization tool. If you're not familiar with Power BI, you'll understand what I mean by the word interactive when I actually create a report and show you how you can create a report that's not a static report, but it's completely interactive, meaning you can click on things, you could filter things right within the report as it's created. It's part of the Microsoft Power Platform. So Microsoft is investing a lot of money into the Microsoft Power Platform, into these tools that they have in the Power Platform. And we're only talking about one tool today, specifically Power BI, but there's others in the Power Platform. But I want you to notice here what Microsoft is saying in this snippet here, the low-code platform. So what is a low-code platform? The idea is these are technical tools that are supposed to be used across the organization and that don't need a lot of coding. So you see that Microsoft is allowing by creating these tools with low code capacity, they're allowing these tools to be used across the organization. So we're right in line with that wave that we just looked at, the third wave, right? Where really these tools are going to be easier and easier to use with less and less technical experience. Now, it doesn't mean that there's no learning curve, just like any other tool. There's definitely a learning curve in Power BI. There is technical components to Power BI, but it's being made available more and more to the general crowd, to the business users. It's a cloud-based service, so you'll see at the end of our presentation what I'm going to do with the dashboard after I create it. I'm actually going to publish it to my workspace, which is the web-based version of Power BI, and it's going to be available in the web. So that means I can have access to it literally through any device connected to the internet, which creates great access for these reports. So just think you could be sitting on a plane, or you've just landed, or you're taking off. You could totally be monitoring KPIs right off of your phone, and that's pretty powerful. It's created for self-service. What I mean here is it was created for people to create their own visualizations, their own analytics, their own business intelligence tools. It's really meant to be used as a self-service. Power BI connects to over 100 sources. I think last time I checked, it was over 117. If you want to see the full list, you can see the link that I provided at the bottom there. But just think of the possibilities. I know that we're focusing right now on GP specifically, when we're going to be talking about connecting to the database. But just think of all the other data sources that you're able to connect to using Power BI. And that's exactly what it was created to do. It was actually created to be able to connect to all sorts of data and marry that data to create some custom and neat metrics that you could look at. So imagine most companies usually have some sort of financial system. They also have some sort of CRM system. Imagine having the possibility of connecting to both of those databases and marrying the data and driving some neat analytics from it. That's just one example, but look at the connectors. There are so many different things that you can connect to with Power BI and bring and leverage that data that you're creating in your organization. There's a very dynamic user interface. Usually, here's the workflow of how the data is brought in and then shared. You're going to hear me refer to it to these two components, Power BI Desktop and Power BI Service. Those are not completely separate things. It's just two components to Power BI. So one is the Power BI Desktop, which is an application that is downloaded right to your computer, and that's where all the creation generally happens. I say generally because there's actually overlap between these two, because you could totally create things in Power BI Service. But generally, Power BI Desktop is used to connect to data sources, do the design and creation of the report, and then you're publishing things out to the Power BI service, to the web, and then you're sharing it there. So just think a Power BI Desktop is more for designing, and then Power BI Service is really made more for sharing. So sharing across your organization, sharing across your teams, individuals can be sharing with one another. So that's the general workflow, and you're going to see that as I'm going to show it in the demonstration. Last question, why Power BI? So I get this question a lot. GP has some pretty dynamic reporting capacity. There's some tools that are available, right, for creating reports in GP. Well, here are some bullet points. This is not an exhaustive list. It's not meant to be, but just some things to think about. So almost real-time insights. So when you create a report and you publish it to the web, you're able to refresh the report automatically. So there's a schedule refresh function that's available in Power BI, and with a Power BI Pro license, you can refresh your data and your reports up to 8 times a day. So just imagine the workday, you could have your reports automatically refreshed 8 times a day. So every hour you have almost real-time insights. That's very powerful. Instead of exporting data, instead of clicking through and creating reports and having to get those insights, you're literally looking at a report that you've created that is automatically being refreshed. So what you need to do with static reports is spend a lot of time, right, to get to those insights. Well, here you could easily open up a web service and see how you're doing on the reports that you've created. So that's a very powerful aspect. It also integrates with other Microsoft tools. So what you see here in the screenshot is an integration right in Teams. Teams is not the only place where Power BI integrates, but that integration is very powerful. So Teams is supposed to be that place where you're doing all of your work, right? So you have your chat there, you have your calendar, your meetings, your team conversations, and information being passed back and forth. Well, Power BI integrates really seamlessly right into Teams. So you don't have to go to another tool, for example, to look at the reports that I just mentioned are being refreshed automatically. You could easily, during a meeting, as you're having the meeting, pull up a Power BI report right within Teams as you guys are sharing information. We do that internally all the time, and we always talk to our clients about doing that. Customizable visualizations. So I like to say there's an art component to Power BI, and then there's a science component, right? So science is more of the technical side, but it is very much an art. So depending on your creative capacity, which I don't have a lot of, but some people are very creative in how they create reports. It really allows you to create reports that are in line with your brand, with your culture, with your organization. You can create some neat things in Power BI. Cost of ownership is a major component. So what you see in front of you is the pricing tiers for licensing. On the left-hand side, you have the Pro license, and then you can upgrade to a premium license. Now, let me just mention here, even before you get the Pro license, you can do almost everything without a license. Here's what I mean. You can download the app, you can connect to your data, you can create reports, you can even publish reports to your own workspace and see those reports there at absolutely no cost. So you don't need a license to do any of those things. Where a license need comes in is when you're trying to share that report with anybody else in your organization. So for you to share the insights that you've created with others within Power BI service, you need to have a license, and the person you're sharing with needs to have a license. And that license, that first tier, is $10 per user per month. That is not a significantly high cost, and you might disagree with me because you're probably thinking, well, we have a ton of people in our organization. But let me tell you, it's relatively cheap compared to what it really brings to your organization and also other business intelligence tools in the market. So $10 a month for what you're getting with Power BI is a relatively cheap cost or price that you have to pay. There are some additional features in Power BI Premium, and we don't have a lot of time to go into those. And you could totally go to app, or you can go to powerbi.com, and you can find the breakdown and what's included in the tiers. There's a quick return on investment. All those manual processes that are happening in your organization could be cut significantly by creating automated reports. So I remember a report when I worked for an organization right out of college. We were working a lot in Excel, and I had a big report that I had to update on a monthly basis at the end of the month. And there was literally, I don't know, 25 tabs and all kinds of information needed to be imported into this one spreadsheet. And it took me a few days to make sure the data's in there, it's calculating correctly, and it's providing the right insights, because it was being used to run the company. So just imagine cutting that process, all those hours of all the individuals that are spending an enormous amount of time just kind of doing regular maintenance work on reporting. That's a significant amount of time. So what you're paying in $10 a month and somebody to create some reports and have them refresh for everybody saves a lot of money. So it's a quick return on investment. And lastly, it's the best BI tool on the market. So you might not agree with me on that, but if you look at what Gartner has put out over the years, the company Gartner does an analysis of the best tools in the market. So Google the Magic Quadrant of BI tools, and you'll see that every single year, Power BI has been the leader in the market across all of the tools that are out there. And I think it's because of all the things that I just already showed you. I think it's the vision for the tool. I think it's the integrations that are available for the tool. It's the seamless work between the Microsoft products in Power BI. There's all those things add up to bring a lot of value, and that's how Microsoft sets their tool apart.